In part 6 of our crash course, we're going to take a look at AI's hidden weaknesses. So the very first weakness is actually the most important. AI is really bad at recreating an authentic voice. Okay, so why is this important? Well, if you ask any person in your life that's very familiar with college applications, it could be your school guidance counselor, college counselor, or even a private consultant if you have one. They will tell you the very first and most important thing to have in your college application essay is an authentic voice. Because think back to the funnel sieve basket analogy. In the sieve section, your essays, it is your job to prove that you're the right fit for the university, and you're trying to highlight your unique qualities and your unique voice. So in the sieve, you really want to stand out. But unfortunately, mostly all AI written text sounds the same. And so if you end up using AI to write some portion of your essay, you're going to end up blending in. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. So again, you need an authentic voice and you want to stand out in the sieve process so that you'll make it through. And if you end up using AI, you won't be able to actually inject your own authentic voice, which is what makes you unique in the first place. And so ultimately using AI is going to hamper your ability to get a good college application essay if you're using AI to write portions of your essay. So to hammer this point home, let's take a look at an AI written essay compared to a real essay. Now the AI written essay is on the left side of your screen, written in red. And as we can see, setbacks are not to be feared, but embraced. They are opportunities for growth, discovery, and ultimately success. I'm not going to continue reading it, but as we can see, it just sounds bland. There's no voice behind it. Nothing about it draws me in. If we compare that to the real essay, several benches over is an elderly Chinese man with one leg amputated, sitting in a wheelchair, his arm shaking as he lifts his fork to his mouth. I can already see an anecdote there where it's drawing me in and I can really see what the author is seeing. I can understand their point of view and it draws me in as a reader, and I'm excited to read that essay. Now, if you're a high school student and you aren't instantly able to determine the difference in quality between these essays, feel free to bring it over to your guidance counselor and ask them which essay draws them in and which essay just feels bland. And so ultimately, it is really important to have your authentic voice in your essay. And that's why you shouldn't use AI to write any part of your essay or even to outline or draft. And that's because if you start with an AI written essay, if you start with the left-hand side, it is nearly impossible to then inject your own raw authentic voice and somehow make it look like the right-hand side. It just doesn't work and it just doesn't happen. So again, don't use AI, of course not in your final part of your essay, but don't even use it to draft or outline. Not because it's against university policies, but because you'll actually be doing yourself a disservice when it comes to making yourself stand out in the sieve. So don't do it. But this point is also backed by research. So in a study of a couple hundred creative writers, and some of them were allowed to use AI and others weren't, the main takeaway of that research study was that using AI makes a story much more likely to be similar to others from writers who are also using AI. And so what I take away from this is, again, AI empirically all sounds the same. And since creative writing is fairly close to writing college application essays, I think that there are some parallels to be drawn here. So this really hammers the point home. If you're using AI, you just sound bland. There's nothing authentic about your voice that is going to help draw readers in. And as a result, if you use AI to write any part of your college application essay, even an outline or a draft, your application will be weaker for it. Now let's move on to weakness number 2. And this one is a tricky one. And it's also the root cause of why so many students that are using AI might actually be harming their own application without even knowing it. So the weakness here is that AI is only as good as what it has seen. Now let's investigate what that means for AI giving advice to students on their college application essays. Well, the core is bad data in, bad data out. So if we remember from the lecture about what is AI, ChatGPT is trained on everything on the internet. And remember, it's not thinking about anything. It's purely doing hyper-accurate prediction based on what it has seen during the training phase of itself. And so recall that ChatGPT trained on everything on the internet, and that includes Reddit and Quora posts of strangers giving advice on college applications. And so when you ask ChatGPT for advice on your college application essay, you can almost think about ChatGPT referencing these Reddit and Quora posts to figure out how to best advise you. But unfortunately, a lot of this advice out there sounds good, but is actually really bad. And that's because most of these posts are done by students who got into top universities that think that they know why they got in, but in reality, no one knows why they got into their chosen university. In fact, when discussing with an admissions director of a top 10 university, he best described this as the blind leading the blind, because their advice sounds plausible and they're helping prospective students with their college applications, but a lot of their advice is unfortunately bad, even though it sounds good. And ChatGPT is using that information to then predict how to best advise you. So if we just use ChatGPT directly, unfortunately, we will get a lot of advice that sounds good, but is actually counterproductive. And that's how a lot of students, if you're just using AI directly from ChatGPT, it's not going to be very good advice and you won't even know it.